We're going to go ahead and get started. The planning board members that are here today are Sidney Franklin, Patrick Morse, Michael Pate, Jorge Sotolongo, Dave Rosacker is vice chairman, and I am Greg Rosenbaum, chairman. Members of the city staff that are in attendance today are Dave Fanslaw, planning director, Eric England, assistant planning director, Mike Carter, current planning manager, Robert LaRocco, planning board administrator, Jennifer Taylor of the city law department, and our recording secretary is Kathy Epperson. Our rules of procedure are as follows. Notice of this hearing has been published. Copies of today's agenda are located on the table in front of us. You're welcome to come down and pick one up. The cases on the consent agenda will be heard first. Consent cases have been recommended for layover, have already been heard, or are perceived by the planning board to be non-controversial. Therefore, will be read and voted on without the opportunity for your testimony. If you wish to testify, you may remove the case from the consent agenda. When each consent case is read, I will ask if anyone wants the case removed. If you do, please stand up and say so, and the case will be removed. This case will then be heard in the order in which it appears on the regular agenda after we go through the consent cases. When the case is heard, you will have the opportunity to come to the podium, clearly state your name and address, and give your testimony at that time. When hearing cases on the regular agenda, the board will first hear from the applicant. After the applicant states their case, we will hear from the proponents, and then we will hear from the opponents. After both sides are heard, the public hearing will be closed, and no additional testimony will be permitted unless a board member requests additional information. When at the podium, please clearly state your name, address, and whom you are representing for the record. Your testimony is very important to us. In the interest of time and courtesy to others, please be short and to the point. We will try to limit each case to 10 minutes. Those directly involved in the case, please speak first. We request that large groups select a spokesperson to represent that group, therefore eliminating repetitive testimony. When giving testimony, please provide new information and try not to repeat what has been previously said. We do ask that all speakers and others be treated with courtesy and with respect. In that regard, please remain silent while seated, and please turn off your cell phones. Our decision to approve, deny, or continue a case made here today will be forwarded to the City Council for another public hearing and final disposition by the City Council. Conditional use permits are an exception to this rule. The board's decision made here today on conditional use permits are final and not forwarded to the City Council. Lastly, upon the advice of the law department, all communications to board members from attorneys or other interested parties should be transmitted through the planning department so that they're made a part of the public record. The department will then transmit all that information to the board as well as to the rest of the public. A current copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act can be found in a white binder in this room. There is one change to the consent agenda. That is agenda item number 18. It was on for approval. It is now changed to a layover. It is still on consent, but it has been changed to layover. I'll get started with the reading of the consent cases. Again, if you want to testify for or give testimony for a consent case, you have to stand up and we'll take it off of the consent agenda. Agenda item number 4, case C10-23-50, C12-23-51. Applicant Brookstone Meadows, Inc., Vetter Senior Living. It is on for approval. Request preliminary plat approval of Brookstone Meadows Replat 3, a subdivision inside city limits with rezoning from AG and R7 to R7, along with the approval of the major commercial corridor overlay district. This was laid over from our May meeting. Location, southeast of 204th and Harney Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 5, case C10-23-104, C12-23-105. Applicant Jeremy Hall Advanced Acquisitions, LLC. It is on for approval. Request preliminary plat approval of bungalows at White Hawk Lake, a subdivision outside city limits with rezoning from AG to R6, along with approval of the major commercial corridor overlay district. This was laid over from our May meeting. Location 4205 South 204th Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 6, case C10-23-106, C12-23-107. Applicant Jeremy Hall Advanced Acquisitions, LLC. It is on for approval. Request preliminary and final plat approval of bungalows on Honeysuckle, a minor plat inside city limits with rezoning from DR to R6. This was laid over from our May meeting. Location 1999 Veterans Drive. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 7, case C12-23-76. Applicant Coveted Copper, LLC. It is on for approval. Request preliminary plat approval of Copper Ridge Replat 58, a subdivision outside city limits. This was laid over from our May meeting. Location northeast at 57th and Laurel Avenues. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 8, case C11-23-124. Applicant Jeremy Hall Advanced Acquisitions, LLC. It is on for approval. Request approval of a planned unit development overlay district. This was laid over from our May meeting. Location 1999 Veterans Drive. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 9, case C11-5-178B. Applicant Brookstone Meadows, Inc., Vetters Senior Living, is on for approval. Request approval of a major amendment to the Plan Unit Development Overlay District. This was laid over from our May meeting. Location southeast of 204th and Harney Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 14, case C3-23-139. Applicant In Common Housing Development Corporation. It is on for approval. Request approval of amendment to the future land use element of the city's master plan from high-density residential to office, commercial, and to establish a mixed-use area for the intersection of Poppleton Ave and Park Ave. Location 1303 Park Ave. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 15, case C12-23-127. Applicant Yuri Paskar. It is on for approval. Request preliminary and final plat approval of Albright Choice Replat 7, a minor plat inside city limits. Location northwest of 18th and Washington Streets. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 17, case C10-23-157, C12-23-158. Applicant Richland Homes, LLC. It is on for approval. Request preliminary plat approval of Westbury Creek 3, a subdivision outside city limits, along with approval of a rezoning from AG to R4. Location 4625 South 216th Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 18, case C10-16-287, C10-9-156, C12-16-288. Applicant Jasper Stone, 192nd and Dodge, LLC. It is on for layover. Request final plat approval of Avenue 1, lots 12 through 23, a subdivision inside the city limits with rezoning from AG to MU, along with approval of a major amendment to the mixed-use development agreement for Avenue 1 and repeal of the ACI overlay district for a portion of the site. Location southwest of 188th and Burke Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Seeing none, agenda item number 19, case C12-23-135, applicant Olympus Pines. It is on for approval. Request preliminary and final plat approval of Ridgeview Replat 10, a minor plat inside city limits. Location southwest of 183rd and Wright Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 21, case C10-23-140, C12-23-141. Applicant in Common Housing Development Corporation. It is on for approval. Request preliminary and final plat approval of Hanscom Place Replat 16, a minor plat inside city limits, along with approval of a rezoning from R7 and R8 to R7 and NBD. Location southeast of Park Avenue and Poppleton Ave. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 23, case C10-23-146, C12-23-147, applicant number 4 LLC. It is on for approval. Request preliminary and final plat approval of Signal Hill Replat 2, a minor plat inside city limits, along with expansion of the MCC overlay district. Location southwest of 120th and L Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 24, case C10-23-128, applicant VIP Homes is on for approval. Request rezoning from R3 to R4. Location 2530 North 137th Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 25, case C10-23-58, C11-23-151, applicant Green Lake Development LLC. It is on for a layover. Request rezoning from R7 to TOD2 MUR with repeal of the ACI Area of Civic Importance Overlay District, along with approval of a planned unit redevelopment overlay district. Location 3511 and 3515 Howard Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, sir, it'll be taken off. Agenda item number 25 was on for layover and it's been removed. Thank you. Continuing on, agenda item number 26, case C10-2-215, applicant MJA Copperfields LLC. It is on for approval. Request approval of a major amendment to the mixed-use development agreement for Copperfields. Location northeast of 204th and F Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 27, case C10-8-220, applicant BHI Development, Inc. It is on for approval. Request approval of a major amendment to the mixed-use development agreement for Kensington Park. Location northwest of 204th and Q Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 28, case C10-23-136, C10-23-137, C7-23-145, C7-23-153, C11-23-156. Applicant Brian Hanson. It is on for approval. Request rezoning from GC to CC with approval of the ACI 1 Area of Civic Importance Overlay District, along with approval of a conditional use permit to allow multiple family residential in the CC district, approval of a conditional use permit to allow surface parking in the CC district, and approval of a planned unit redevelopment overlay district. Location 3005 and 3006 Emmett Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, that will be removed. It was on for approval. Agenda item 28. Agenda item number 29, case C11-23-142, applicant in Common Housing Development Corporation. It is on for approval. Request approval of a plan unit redevelopment overlay district. Location, southwest of 29th Street and Poppleton Avenue. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 30, case C11-23-143, applicant in Common Housing Development Corporation. It is on for approval. Request approval of a plan unit redevelopment overlay district. Location, 1303 Park Avenue. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 31, case C8-17-16, applicant Robert Kozel. It is on for layover. Request approval of a major amendment to a special use permit to allow convenience storage in a CC Community Commercial District. Property is also located within the Ponca Hills Environmental Overlay District. Location, northeast of Highway 75 and Interstate 680. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 13, case C7-23-129, applicant Paul J. Cali Architecture. It is on for approval. Request approval of a conditional use permit to allow medical office in the LO district. Property is located within the Flood Fringe Overlay District. Location, 2821 South 87th Ave. Anyone wish to have this removed? Seeing none. Agenda item number 33, case C7-23-130, C10-23-154, applicant Lawrence Butler. It is on for approval. Request approval of a conditional use permit to allow multiple family residential in the GC district, along with expansion of the ACI Area of Civic Importance Overlay District. Location, 2922 North 16th Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Seeing none. Agenda item number 34, case C7-23-148, C10-23-155, applicant St. Patrick's Church of Elkhorn. It is on for approval. Request approval of a conditional use permit to allow religious assembly in the R4 district with expansion of the MCC overlay district, along with a waiver to section 55-186 height to allow an 88-foot tall structure. Location, northwest of Big Elk Parkway and West Maple Road. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 35, case C7-23-152, applicant Phil Schaffart. It is on for approval. Request approval of a conditional use permit to allow indoor sports and recreation in the CC district. Property is located within an MCC major commercial corridor. Location, 10730 Pacific Street. Anyone wish to have this removed? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on. Now, do we have a motion for the consent items that were on for approval?
I motion to approve agenda items number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 14, 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, 24, 26, 27, 29, 30, 32, 33, 34, and 35.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Franklin?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Pate?
Yes.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Do we have a motion for the consent cases that were on for layover?
Motion to lay over cases number 18 and 31. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Franklin?
Yes.
Moore? I'm sorry. Morris,
Yes.
Pate,
Yes.
Sotolongo,
Yes.
Rosacker,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Those cases that were left on consent, there will be no further action taken today. If you came down for one of those cases, you are welcome to stay or you are free to leave, but no further action will be taken today on those cases. We will get started with the first three cases are administrative only. There will be no opportunity for public testimony. Agenda item number 1, case C10-21-73, C12-21-74. Applicant, Metropolitan Utilities District, request final plat approval of MUD Acres 2, a subdivision outside city limits with rezoning from DR to GI. Portions of the property are located in the flood fringe and floodway overlay districts. Location, northeast of Blair High Road and Potter Street. And Eric, you're up.
Yeah, so the preliminary plat was approved by Planning Board and City Council back in 2021. That accompanied a large project special use permit, which will go with the final plat to City Council. The final plat is consistent with the approved preliminary plat, includes 1 lot and 5 outlots. There are a few items that still need to be worked out with the final subdivision agreement, but that is standard at this point of the entitlement process. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning from DR to GI, approval of the final plat subject to the 10 conditions in the recommendation report prior to City Council.
Okay, any comments, questions from the board? Do we have a motion?
I move approval of the rezoning from DR to GI, approval of the final plat subject to addressing the 10 conditions outlined in the recommendation report prior to forwarding the request on to City Council for final action.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Rosacker,
Yes.
Franklin, Morris, Pate,
Yes.
Sotolongo, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Agenda item number 2, case C10-23-26, C12-23-27. Applicant, Signature Ernst Holdings LLC, request final plat approval of Cherry Creek lots 1 through 9, outlots A through C, a subdivision outside city limits with a waiver to section 53-8 street grading, along with rezoning from DR to R4 and R6. This was laid over from our May meeting. Location, west of 103rd Street and Blair High Road. Eric?
Yeah, so this first phase for Cherry Creek includes 7 single-family lots, 2 multifamily lots, and a number of outlots. It was laid over last month due to further coordination regarding the proposed street grading waiver, which has come to an acceptable level with Public Works Department and the applicant. Staff recommends approval of the waiver to section 53-8 street grading, approval of the rezoning from DR to R4 and R6, approval of the final plat subject to conditions of preliminary plat approval and submittal of an acceptable subdivision agreement before City Council.
Any comments or questions? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the waiver of section 53-8 street grading, approval of rezoning from DR to R4 and R6, approval of final plat subject to the conditions of the preliminary plat approval, and submission of an acceptable final subdivision agreement to the City Council.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Morris? Pate?
Yes.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Franklin? Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Agenda item number 3, case C10-19-245, C12-19-246. Applicant Walnut Grove LLC requests final plat approval of Hanover Falls Center, lots 9 and 10, outlots C through E, with rezoning from AG to DR and MU. This was laid over from our May meeting. Location, northwest of 156th and State Streets. Eric?
Yeah, so this layover was due to post-construction stormwater management plans, inefficiencies at the time, which have since been worked out. 2 lots and 3 outlots, a little bit under 14 acres is the site. There are a few items that don't need to be addressed before City Council, one of those being addressing the improvements adjacent to HWS Boulevard on the northwest portion of the site, as well as addressing some items related to the mixed-use open space requirements. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning from AG to DR and MU, subject to submittal of acceptable mixed-use development plan. Approval of the final plat for lots 9 through 10 and outlots C through E, subject to the 4 conditions in the report prior to council.
Any comments or questions? Do we have a motion?
Move approval of rezoning from AG to DR and MU, subject to submittal of an acceptable final mixed-use development plan, and approval of the final plat for lots 9, 10, and outlots C through E, subject to the 4 conditions outlined in the recommendation report prior to forwarding the request on to City Council.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Pate?
Yes.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Franklin? Morris? Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Okay. Agenda item number 10. Case C 10-23-71, C 7-23-68. Applicant Aslan Companies request approval of a conditional use permit to allow multiple family residential in the CC district with approval of the major commercial corridor overlay district. This was laid over from our March meeting. Location 14441 and 14505 DuPont Court. Larry, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of the applicant. With me today is Jeff Randall and Dominic Vaccaro of Burlington Capital, the developers of this particular project, as well as Clark Stevens, the owner. And also with me is Kyle Hasse of E&A Consulting, the consulting engineering firm on behalf of this project. So, start out just kind of showing you the existing conditions and the surrounding zoning classifications. And I know you're probably all relatively familiar with this location, but it's 144th and DuPont. It's outlined here, obviously in the black, 144th Street, West Center Road, running along the south side of the adjacent shopping center. And so the adjacent zoning classifications to the north are R6, where the church is here, and then R3, and then south of the proposed project is community commercial, and then east is also community commercial, and then west is R3 and R4. And so the proposed site is a little over 5 acres in size. It currently houses 2 office buildings shown here. The proposed and the remainder of it is undeveloped and has been for quite some time. There's been a number of applications with respect to this project, or property I should say, over the last probably 20 some years. So I think we finally have a project that will work here. So the proposed project calls for the demolition of the 2 office buildings shown here and the construction of 1 building containing 199 multifamily units. And I'll put this up here, get that straight with the world. As you see here, this is the proposed site plan and the proposed outline of the building. So again, 1 building, 199 units. It's a 5-story building, although in some locations it's only exposed 4 stories. As the property slopes down to the west, you can actually see 5 stories. And your elevations of the building are in the packet, and I do have some elevations that I can show you as far as just the general look and feel of the building from 144th Street. So what we're seeking today is a conditional use permit to allow for this proposed project, and under the CC zoning classification, we can have multifamily with a conditional use permit that really allows you to go to the R7 base district zoning and site regulators. There's also a recommendation of a major commercial corridor overlay district as well. Obviously that has to go on to City Council, but you're making a recommendation on that. So I just wanted to point out again, as you all know, that 144th and West Center Road is a 165-acre mixed-use center. Also, West Center Road is a transit corridor that allows for unlimited multifamily units along the corridor. And then the master plan, of course, allows up to 500 units adjacent to the quarter-mile corridor, and also where you have a 165-acre mixed-use center. So again, 199 units were well under the 500 units that are permitted under the master plan. As far as parking and all the other site regulators, we meet all of them, both with respect to the subdivision regulations and also the zoning code. The parking structure is contained inside of the building, and there are 345 parking spaces required. There are 355 parking spaces provided. There's also 12 parking stalls, I should say surface parking stalls, that serve the clubhouse on the north side of the building, shown here. So again, this meets all the site regulators for CC with a conditional use permit being R7. There was some talk about, at one point in time, there's this private covenant landscape buffer yard easement, and what we don't need to get into the details of that, but all I can tell you is that what we were able to do, it provided for a 60-foot buffer on the north side of the property, and I believe it was a 30-foot buffer on the west side of the property. So what we did is we did an ALTA survey, and then we overlaid the site plan onto the ALTA survey, and we're outside of the 60-foot buffer on the north side of the property, and we're outside of the 30-foot buffer on the west side of the property. And other than that, we meet all of the other site regulators with respect to setbacks and buffer yards. There was a zoning board of appeals case at one point in time, so we're completely in compliance with everything in that regard. So we reviewed the recommendation report of the planning department. We find the same acceptable. There was a neighborhood meeting prior to the March planning board meeting that was laid over. I think the primary concerns were this private agreement, this landscape buffer agreement that I think now with the ALTA survey and the site plan clearly shows that we're in compliance with that particular agreement from the private side. I think the other concern was traffic on 144th Street. Obviously 144th Street is a major collector arterial, as well as West Center Road. I would just point out that this is already zoned community commercial, and the zoning uses could be much more intense under the current zoning than they would be under the R7 in this particular multifamily project. And so with that, we think this is really a downgrade with the conditional use permit from the existing zoning. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm not sure if there'll be opposition here. I think, again, by us satisfying this private agreement on the landscape buffer, I think hopefully that alleviated a lot of the concerns to the residential neighborhood to the north and to the west.
Larry, maybe someone else can answer the question, but can you talk a little bit about the type of building materials or something?
Oh,
about
yes,
the building
actually, you know what, I meant to show you these elevations. So that's the elevation looking from 144th Street west. So that is off of 144th Street. I'm not sure the exact materials, but it looks to me like there's some brick and ephes and glass, and I don't know and a hardy board. So kind of your traditional, but remember, this is the major commercial corridor overlay district, so we have to comply with the urban design code. So it has to be urban design code compliant with respect to the design. So we'll be working with the planning staff to make sure that it is compliant with all of the urban design code requirements with respect to this type of building. This shows just another building elevation. This would be the shopping center to the south here, and this is the drive into the shopping center into the back. So this shows more of a looking northwest from 144th Street. So again, we think it's an attractive building, and I think it fits in nicely here. There's still quite a bit of green space. You know, all this back here is really undevelopable and is wetlands and drainage area and such. So I think this project is a nice project for this particular area and fits in well with the area, both with respect to the shopping center to the south and to the single-family residential neighborhood to the north and west, and the church to the north as well. So
you, this was laid over in March, I believe.
right.
And there was some opposition to that, to the proposed plan then. Have you talked to, has there been any other meetings with the neighborhood since then?
No, and the reason why we didn't think we necessarily needed to, because I think we addressed all their concerns. I mean, the building that we had before came up into the buffer yard area and actually came into the 30-foot buffer yard, I think, on the R4 zoning here to the west. So the fact that we were able to push the building down and accommodate all the concerns, I think, to me, that was the main thing that we heard at the neighborhood meeting. There was probably 90 people there, and it seemed to me that that was like the main focus, is that you need to comply with this agreement. And so we shifted the building down, and we were able to do that as shown by this particular exhibit.
Okay, good. Yeah, we got no public correspondence.
Yeah, I think most everyone's satisfied now. I think that was, like I said, I think that was the biggest concern.
Good, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Larry? Thank you, Larry. Any other proponents wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, are there any opponents? Come forward, give your name and address, please, sir.
Hi, thank you. I'm Todd Sandwick. My address is 2335 South 147th Street. I appreciate you for letting me come up and speak. I'm in opposition to this project because of the negative effect this project will have on the Harvey Oaks residents, and all of our concerns have not been addressed. So I'm not going to try to take too long. I could go on and on. I'm just going to hit the ones really quick. So the traffic is a huge issue. So he, no disrespect, failed to let you know that you can only enter this project heading south from north on 144th. And when exiting this, you can only head south. Or I'm sorry, yes, you can only head south. So you've got one way in, one way out. So we believe there is a U-turn there on 144th. So if you're heading north, you can do a U-turn right there on Harvey Oaks Avenue and then head back south, but that's going to create a lot of issues. So we believe that after a few months of people living there, they're going to figure out that it's a lot easier to turn on 148th and Center and drive through Harvey Oaks and then pull out on Harvey Oaks Avenue, and then they can enter into this one-way apartment complex. So we believe that, and again, we're talking virtually 200 units, 400 cars. That's not a couple of cars. That's a lot. And driving through the neighborhood to get to their place is going to be a concern for all the residents there and the children that we have. So I think this is an issue that really needs to be handled. Secondly, what we brought up was the water issue. So presently, and I apologize, I don't have those pictures that the gentleman had, but the water drainage is going, it'll be heading to the west. And some studies have already been done when Mr. Stevens attempted to do buildings before and saw that that water retention and the water drainage the numbers didn't work. And this building's actually bigger. So I spoke to the neighbors yesterday, a couple of them down at the end of 148th and Center, and presently it floods down there. And it floods within 6 to 8 feet of the back of their house. And these are big lots. They're real big lots. And it takes a while to drain. This is going to add a lot more water. And I don't see in the plans, maybe they haven't showed me where this retention pond is going to go. Where's it going to exist? And how large is this retention pond going to be? Since the last conditional permit that he was able to receive, many trees were demolished. They were just hauled out of there. This is our concern with this conditional permit again, that we're going to lose more trees, more work's going to get done, and then we're going to be back in the same position that the building's not going to be able to be built. So with that said, I'm here on behalf of myself. I back to this space. I know they're following all the rules and regulations. 5 stories in your backyard, I don't think anybody wants. The 60-foot buffer, though, let me touch on that. That is the entire space. It is not just on the north side, it's on the west side as well. There is a 60-foot buffer. It went to the Supreme Court. It has been given to the Register of Deeds. It is registered, showing that there is a 60-foot buffer there. And presently, I believe we're only showing 30 feet. I think I've touched on it. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, so Todd, I brought up the concern about the U-turn there because I'm familiar with that area, quite familiar with that area. And I think 2 things that helped me to accept it a little bit better. I don't fully accept it yet.
Mm-hmm.
One is that at that intersection, I believe that there is a turn signal heading west onto, I think it's Harvey Oaks Boulevard, or if I'm not mistaken there.
Yes.
Yeah, so if someone's waiting to turn and make that U-turn, they will have at least for some period, a turn signal that they can U-turn there, where there's not gonna be any oncoming traffic coming from the north on 144th. There might be from Harvey Oaks.
There is.
Right.
This is what we wanted to
So,
talk. So
yeah.
coming out onto
So
Harvey
maybe
Oaks
you can talk
Avenue
about that
to
a little
turn,
bit. Yeah.
you're
And,
going to be combining two cars there. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
Happens
And
all
the
the
other
time.
thing that gave me a little bit more comfort, not a lot, again, was the fact that it could be zoned commercial, which would increase traffic even more
Mhm.
than what the proposal is right now. So they could do that without even coming to us, and then you'd see a lot of traffic coming.
Completely understand that.
Yeah. So maybe talk to us a little bit about what your experience is. I drive by there frequently, but not enough to see many U-turns there. Have you noticed many people using that as an intersection to make U-turns in right now?
All the time. All the time. And I'm not going to exaggerate, 1 in 5, 1 in 7 cars are doing U-turns right there. I have young children. I shouldn't say young. I'm getting older. But I have one left in high school. So in the morning when we're trying to head out to Millard North coming off of Harvey Oaks Ave, that gets full. I mean, there is a lot of cars coming out of there. And at the end of the day, everybody's trying to come back in and they're leaving Millard North. And when the other development gets done over there, I can't imagine the kind of traffic that we're going to see on 144th Street. So I think you're going to see a lot more U-turns going on right there. And I understand that they're following the rules of the law. We're not against building. That isn't the case. It would be nice if numbers were lower than 400 cars. I think that is one of our biggest issues. Well, I shouldn't say. The water is also it's a huge issue. The last time that they did an analysis of it, they said if the building he was going to put up without tearing the other ones down was definitely going to flood the people on 148th, right off the center. And one of them has a walkout basement. And I spoke to that gentleman yesterday. He said that water has gotten up to within 10 inches of his door, just with where it is now.
Well, that exists currently, and I'm going to let Eric probably speak to that. I'm sure he'll speak to that a little bit in his comments, but I'm probably going to bring up Ryan Haas to talk about that intersection, that U-turn there a little bit from Public Works to just touch on that a little bit for us. But yeah, so thanks for your comments.
Thank you. Is that it?
Thank you, Todd.
All right, thanks.
Any other opponents?
Hello, my name is Corey Podwinski. I'm at 14629 Shirley Street, and I'm actually the president of the Harvey Oaks Homeowners Association. And we have not once been contacted by Mr. Jobin or anybody on this project. So our biggest concerns right now is that 60-foot buffer and the water mitigation. And so I would actually like to ask that this gets held over and not pushed through today, because we actually have our monthly meeting this Thursday, tomorrow, so we would gladly have Mr. Jobin come in and speak to us, since they haven't, last time. And I'd really like to get you guys to clarify the buffer and what they're doing with this plan. So if you have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you,
I
Corey.
think, Corey, you'll find that when they come back, they'll be able to answer both those questions.
I hope so.
That building is even though it's their plan shows 30 feet. If you look at it, it's probably 60 feet away already. And the other thing is that the stormwater regulations that this property will be built under are totally different than what the old one was. And so the retention on site is going to be entirely different.
Can there be streets within that buffer?
What's that?
Can you guys have streets within that buffer?
It's a buffer, yeah.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you.
Any other opponents wishing to speak?
My name is Tony Hofer. I live at 2224 South 146 Circle, which is really close to the northwest side of this development. I have lived there since 1977, which would be almost 46 years. I've been a resident of Omaha most of my life. I would just like to further discuss the situation with the traffic coming in and out of there. I'm skeptical that there's any place else in Omaha where you have this much traffic, this many units, and it's a right in, right out only onto a major traffic way. And I don't, as far as where they do make U-turns, they try to make U-turns, but one thing you should understand, the traffic coming north on 144th, it flies up that hill because people are trying to beat the traffic lights. I do that myself. And so what's going to happen is, it's one thing to make a U-turn if you're driving a Mini Cooper, okay? But if you're driving a F-150 with an extended cab, what's going to happen is they're going to try to make that U-turn, and they're not going to be able to make it. And here you got this traffic coming up from the north on 144th. What are they going to have to do? They're going to have to back up. And another thing that they will do is they'll make a left they'll realize, I can't make this U-turn here, so I'm going to make a left-hand turn down Harvey Oaks Avenue. Well, the first thing there to the left on Harvey Oaks Avenue is the Converge Church. Used to be the Harvey Oaks Baptist Church. And okay, one of the first places they can turn in then is the parking lot on the west side of that church. And on the west side of the church, there's a preschool. My granddaughters attend that preschool. You're gonna have big trucks coming in there that couldn't negotiate that U-turn. And so they're gonna be coming in there, they're pulling into that parking lot where that preschool is. I would like to know if there's any place else in Omaha that duplicates the traffic hazard that this development is going to present here on 144th Street with that right in, right out only situation. If there is such a place, I don't know where it is.
They exist. There's one I'm thinking of right off the top of my head. Between Dodge and Blondo on 168th Street, where you have to, in order to go to the car dealerships on 180th Street, if you're coming on 168th Street going north, you have to make, not a U-turn, but you have to pull into a neighborhood, turn around to come back out to go down that access road into the car dealerships down there. That's the one I can think of. So there are examples of that, but it's not a U-turn. But you do go through the neighborhood to have to go back south on 168th Street. So that does exist.
But they can go out another way.
No, it's right in, right out. On the access road that I'm talking about.
I think Tony's talking about, you can go through and go out to 180th Street. Is that what you're saying about his example, or what?
No, I think
yeah, I guess. I mean, I can't really picture what he's talking.
I think he's talking about the right in, right out off of
right.
It also has another entrance off of Center Street, too.
Yeah.
What's that?
Harvey Oaks also has another entrance off of Center Street, just a few blocks away.
Yeah.
Harvey Oaks does,
Yeah.
but this piece of property here does not.
Yeah.
Tony, we will discuss the traffic, and the applicant will, and we'll bring Ryan Haas up, as Mr. Pate said, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
All
Tony.
right. Any other opponents wishing to speak? Sir, come on up.
My name is Mike Friesen. I'm the pastor at Converge Church, one of the pastors there. I don't know if my comments could be construed as opposition, but I do have some concerns. One of them being our parking lot is just to the north, adjacent to this property, and we already see some service vehicles come, like UPS, and they'll come, and it's more convenient to come into our parking lot and to park there, run across their parking lot, and bring packages in. It's just more convenient. I understand that because of this traffic issue, the one way in, one way out. And so I do have a little bit concerned that would continue to be the case, only with a fleet of Amazon trucks. You know how that is with residences. So I do have concerns that our parking lot would be a more convenient access for service vehicles, and I'd like to prevent that because of the preschool will be our primary concern. The other thing is we do have a rather large grassy area that's connected right on that parking lot, and I would not like to see that become a dog park. So just a couple of concerns. Like I said, I don't know if I could say we're in opposition, but a couple of concerns.
Does your parking area connect with the parking area for the existing building that's on that site? Does it connect? Are they connected?
No, there's
There's a little bit of
a curb and a
Okay.
median. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the grade change between the two? If you could,
I'm sorry.
the grade change.
Virtually non-existent.
Any other questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other opponents? Okay, I think that's it. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Larry, you're welcome to come up and address these items.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of the applicant. A couple things. As far as the multifamily use, I mean, currently it is zoned community commercial. And so we believe that this is really a down zoning to multifamily, as we've talked ad nauseum about every multifamily project that comes down here, is that multifamily projects have lower AM and PM peak traffic volumes than commercial uses by far. And so the right in, right out, and the U-turn, that should, and Ryan Haas is obviously here to talk about that, but that obviously will alleviate these traffic problems. Again, you could have much more dense uses under its existing zoning than you would with this conditional use permit allowing for the R7. As far as the post-construction stormwater management, we're required to comply with all the regulations regarding that. There's actually stormwater detention on the west side, but we're also dealing with stormwater with underground storage. So there can't be, any net increase in the post-construction runoff. We obviously have to comply with that, so there shouldn't be any issue with respect to stormwater. As far as the 60-foot buffer in that private agreement, clearly that's met all the way through, both on the north, and then, this is a 30-foot here. I mean, you can see to the building, it's well beyond the 60 feet. So we think we're well in compliance with the private agreement that is in place, and we acknowledge that it's recorded, and that's why we shifted the building to the south to stay out of that buffer yard. So we think that we've addressed really all the concerns of the neighbors that we can address. The traffic is the traffic. We think this is a better use for this particular location. It's a down zoning. There is no connection whatsoever between this particular project and the Harvey Oaks neighborhood or the church. So, if people are making that kind of use of the church's parking lot, maybe that's an enforcement issue. I don't know, but
Is there a plan to put a fence up along property lines or anything like that?
I don't know the answer to that. I would say probably not, but but there's no traffic connectivity whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah.
I get that.
Larry, do you know if pets will be allowed? Pets?
Yeah, most likely, yes, pets will be.
Will there be a designated area for the pets?
Yeah, there's a designated dog park area somewhere on the site. I didn't see it designated on the site plan, but yes, that'll all be handled.
Larry, maybe you can't answer this question for your client. I'm going to ask you anyway. Okay. So, do you think this project would go through if that U-turn was eliminated?
I don't know the answer to that.
Let me just say, I'm not opposed to the plan at
Uh-huh.
all. I am concerned about safety. I
Right.
truly am. So it's not in opposition to the plan itself. But as that traffic increases with the development of the Hartwood Preserve and the existing traffic that's there right now, I do get concerned about that traffic. So if Public Works determined at some point in time that it's a dangerous intersection to allow a U-turn at, they may just say, we're gonna eliminate that U-turn. So if that's eliminated, would this project continue to go through if you thought that was in the future?
I'm not a traffic engineer, so I can't say if that
I'm
would
doing
or
what
would not
ifs.
happen. I guess I would
I'm
say
doing
with
what ifs.
Hartwood Preserve being between Dodge and Pacific, Dodge obviously being a major arterial, Pacific being a major arterial, 144th being a major arterial center. I mean, that's probably one of the most well-served areas from a public infrastructure perspective. I mean, there's all sorts of different directions you can go, whether it be north, south, east, or west, So I'm not sure, if people are going to, if it's quicker to go Pacific than come down to center, they're going to go Pacific. If it's quicker to go to Dodge, they're going to go Dodge. I mean, I think people are going to be at this location because it's destination oriented or they're trying to get further south. But traffic is what traffic is around here, and I guess I would rely on the traffic engineers. I don't know the answer as far as what would happen if the U-turn would somehow be eliminated. I guess time will tell.
That's a good political answer.
Thank you.
I don't know that I agree with that, but it's a good political answer, Larry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry, Corey, the president of the homeowners association, talked about contact meeting.
Well, we had a pretty significant meeting. I mean, we felt
We
like
talked about
we had a meeting for a little over an hour with probably 90 to 100 people there. This is my fourth time down here on this particular property as far as different projects, since probably the late 90s. I think this is probably the best project that we've put forward to this day that meets all the requirements of both the landscape agreement, which to me was the primary issue that we can deal with, right? And we dealt with that. We meet all the zoning code requirements. We meet all the subdivision requirements. The thing that we can't necessarily address, but it is what it is, and that's the traffic on 144th Street. I mean, this is master plan compliant. I mean, we're 199 units adjacent to a 165-acre mixed-use center and an unlimited apartment corridor here. I mean, we're well within, I think, the master plan to do what we're trying to do. So I think when we address those issues, what are you going to talk about that we've addressed them? I mean, we're here talking about it, shifting that building and eliminating that concern, to me, was doing exactly what I think we heard at the neighborhood meeting. I don't know what else could be accomplished by another one.
If this was approved or laid over today, you don't see the need for an additional meeting, or you've exhausted?
I think we've exhausted that because we've dealt with the stormwater. We have underground detention. We have to comply with the post-construction stormwater management policies, all right, of the city. We have dealt with the private agreement. We meet all the site regulators that are in existence with respect to buffers and setbacks. I mean, I think we've done everything we can possibly do to try to address the concerns that we heard at that neighborhood meeting. And so talking about it again, I just don't know what that accomplishes necessarily.
Okay. Anything else you want to?
No, I think that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk, or do we want to bring Ryan down?
Probably
before
bring
us
Ryan up for the
before you
traffic.
say
Yeah.
anything? Okay. Do you want to add anything on the stormwater? Okay.
Ryan Haas with the Public Works Department.
Go ahead, Mike.
So, Ryan, you heard the discussion we had here.
Yeah.
Theirs as well in the pre-meeting too. So let's talk about that intersection a little bit, that U-turn
Sure.
intersection there. And right now, in your comments earlier in the pre-meeting, you indicated, there haven't been any traffic accidents of note there at that intersection. But as that traffic increases, and it will increase, there's no doubt about it, it will continue to increase. What does the city look at when it looks at allowing a U-turn, particularly on a major corridor like that, 144th Street? What does it look for in addition to accident history? Traffic counts, time of day, what do you look at?
Yeah, traffic volumes are studied, the number of not just the U-turn movements, but then the southbound traffic, like you mentioned, that's expected or anticipated to increase over time. One of the things we look at is sight distance to make sure that the people who want to make a U-turn can see far enough to the north in order to judge if they have an appropriate gap to go ahead and proceed with their maneuver. The signal timing is reviewed periodically. The traffic signal phasing is reviewed. So if there was let's say, and just for everyone's benefit, we did unrelated to the development project in front of you today, the city recently did a safety audit at this intersection to evaluate the traffic signal timing, the signage, the traffic signal phasing. And it was deemed to be the most appropriate for the conditions as they exist currently. So one of the things that can happen over time if we have an intersection where a left turn crash pattern develops, where there's an increase, where we're seeing people not able to judge that they have an appropriate gap, then we can change the signal timing to respond to that. So right now there's it's called protected permissive. So like you mentioned, to start off, you'll see a green arrow if you're wanting to make a left turn or a U-turn there. And after several seconds, that goes yellow, and then all you see is a green ball indication, or I don't know if we have flashing yellow arrows there yet, but basically then you as the driver are allowed to, if you see a gap in southbound traffic, you can continue making left turns throughout that green part of the cycle length. If we see an increase in the crash history and the crash pattern, what we can do at this or any other intersection where we see those patterns develop is we can change that signal head to just have arrows only. So you either get a green arrow or a yellow arrow to clear the intersection, or a red arrow, and then you just have to wait till the next cycle. So we kind of take the guesswork, or not the guesswork, but we take the decision making out of the left turn maneuver for the drivers. So that's something that certainly, we can monitor this over time if it changes substantially as a result of this project, or traffic patterns generally on 144th. We can monitor that over time, and that's something that we can do to change.
And do you do that on your own, or do you have to get some complaints from the?
It's periodically we review intersections, and then we do respond to complaints to study on a case-by-case basis, yes.
And I believe 144th Street's a 45-mile-an-hour thoroughfare.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
Which I've driven it many times. It's really 55.
So it's only through that review over time of, I guess, whether to put in that green or red arrow turning left, not, I guess, based on a strong enough opposition from the neighbors to kind of put it in right out the gate?
Well, keep in mind, and we talked about this briefly this morning, there are trips going to and from the site today. So it's not like we're starting from a baseline of 0 and we're adding all of the trips to so there is going to be a net change potentially. It's not going to be, we evaluated it and didn't determine that it was substantial enough. We needed a traffic study. If this was a big shift, we would have had a traffic study done to maybe take a closer look and see if the recommendation would have been to make changes. And we also had the confidence that what's out there today can meet what's out there because, like I said, we just did the safety audit recently. So the signage and the signal phasing, the signal heads, they are meeting the current conditions at the intersection. Yeah.
Ryan, Larry mentioned CC zoning and traffic counts with typical commercial uses and how they compare to apartment complexes. Can you speak a little bit to that and that data?
Yeah, and any different land uses have different trip generation rates. And we have a manual, it's a big, thick volume, several volumes, where we can calculate, if you give us a land use and a square footage, we can tell you about how many trips there are going to be. So CC zoning, there's a broad number of land uses, so it's a range, and it just depends on how big or how much they put there. So this is generally speaking, though, commercial uses are more intense than equivalent multifamily. And that's just something we see as a generality. Of course, you're going to have maybe apartments that don't generate as much trips if it's age restricted or that kind of thing. You might have commercial uses that don't generate as much or generate more intensities. But as a generality, it would be a correct statement that commercial uses are generally more intense as far as traffic generators. One more thing, just to reiterate on the stormwater, and I know it's been covered a couple times, but stormwater management is not optional. It's something that the city is very concerned about as well. We will make sure that that their stormwater plan meets our current requirements to provide for a no net increase relative to what's out there now. So there won't be, they will be required to put in measures to match the current runoff rate and not exceed that.
Why is that U-turn? It's only there for one. I can only see it there for this one piece of property because there's a lighted intersection at the Harvey Oaks development there, where you can go any direction. There's another one on Harvey Oaks Boulevard. So the only one that really is affected by that is the existing property.
There's two accesses. The one in question is right here. I don't know how clearly this shows up on the aerial. And then there's a secondary access here on the backside there at Harvey Oaks, the commercial part. So to your point, yeah, there would not necessarily need to be a U-turn movement there if those accesses didn't exist. But take a step back at the area as a whole and look at what we have in front of us today. Is the subject property is here. They don't have frontage to any other right-of-way.
Right.
Their only potential access is to 144th. And just to point out, this is kind of a relic of maybe a previous regulatory framework where that was allowed to happen. We don't do that anymore. We understand these issues that arise, and over time we have changed the master plan and the city code where the commercial area, the multifamily, the residential, your civic uses would all be kind of integrated, and certainly there'd be transition areas and things like that. But there'd be a network of public streets to handle all those circulation, all of that internally. And then there'd be one single access at a signal, one single, you know, there wouldn't be all these driveways and U-turns and things because we'd have that internal connectivity. So part of what we're dealing with is the fact that there's no driveway between the subject site and anywhere in the neighborhood. And for better or worse, I mean, that's kind of what, there's no way to undo that or change that without a broad redevelopment, which obviously isn't in front of us today. So we're responding to the proposed plan to the best of our abilities based on what's out there today.
Okay. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Mike, were you going to say something? Okay. Eric?
Yeah, so I don't have too much to add. Obviously, the applicant has made several modifications since the original layover in March, both for some of the building design and you know, the skin of the parking garage in the center portion of the building. So we appreciate working with them on that so that it is MCC compliant. You know, there's modification to the access, narrowing it down from the current configuration, clarification on the FAR to make sure that's compliant. So there's been a lot of work that's been done on the applicant team, and we appreciate it. You know, there's a few additional tree plantings that need to be added, but there's room for that both on the northwest corner as well as on the north portion of the site for the interior landscaping. So those are minor items. There will need to be some reporting due on the wetlands, which they'll continue to work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and provide us information regarding that. So I don't have much to add. Obviously, we've discussed this a few times at pre-meeting, so I don't know if you have any additional questions. I think, you know, the traffic and the stormwater have been adequately covered and answered. It is within a quarter mile of West Center Road, so there is unlimited amount of density that can be had along West Center Road. So I know Larry had mentioned that, but that is master plan compliant as well. So unless there's any other specific questions, staff recommends approval of the MCC overlay district, approval of the conditional use permit to allow multifamily in the CC district subject to the 10 items in the recommendation report.
Okay, do we have a motion?
A motion for approval of the MCC overlay district and approval of the conditional use permit to allow multifamily residential in the CC district subject to the 10 conditions in the recommendation report.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Franklin? Yes. Morris?
Yes.
Pate? Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approval 6-0.
Agenda item number 11, case C3-23-103. Applicant, Planning Department on behalf of the City of Omaha, request approval of the Forever North TIF redevelopment project plan, location 2505 North 24th Street. And Don, you're up.
Yeah, excuse me. Good afternoon, Don Seaton, City Planning Department. This project's located at the northeast corner of 24th and Lake, right in the heart of the main business district of North Omaha. The project site is now vacant, but it had been the home of formerly a Safeway grocery store that was converted into the OSBN, Omaha Small Business Technology Center building. This project is a two-phase, two-building project that's being proposed for the now vacant site. It includes the construction of a four-story mixed-use structure for one of the buildings with about 16,000 square feet of main floor retail uses, perhaps about 7 bays, and about 81,000 square feet of office space on the upper 3 floors. The second building will be a 4-story apartment building with 99 units. This is one building, this is the other building. That building will include daycare facilities, a community room, and a fitness center. The developer is Forever North Real Estate, LLC, which is largely comprised of Carmen Tapio, Mike Peter, and Ashley Kuhn. Total project investment in North Omaha is about $72.5 million. The TIF support for the project is $9,463,221. Project meets the required criteria of our TIF program, been reviewed and approved by the TIF committee. It's an appropriate land use for the location, and we ask for your approval.
Any questions of Don? Thank you, Don. Any other proponents wishing to speak?
Hi, Bryce Danielson, 4616 Dodge Street. Appearing on behalf of the development team. We're super excited about this project and can answer any questions that you have. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Additional comments, questions? Eric?
Yeah, we're excited about this project. You know, there's a lot happening at this corner and along the 24th Street corridor, so you know, we're really excited to see both the residential and the office commercial component for mixed use, which should be a really good project and you know, provide a lot of jobs for this important corridor. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion approved.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Franklin? Morris?
Yes.
Pate?
Yes.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Agenda item number 12, case C3-23-149. Applicant, Planning Department on behalf of the City of Omaha, request approval of the Highlander 5 Davis Ridge TIF redevelopment project plan. Location, northwest of 31st Street and Patrick Avenue. And you're up again, Don.
Yeah, good afternoon, Don Seaton, Omaha City Planning.
Don's just second.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, let the record show that Sydney Franklin needs to recuse herself and she's leaving the chambers.
All right, very good. Don Seaton, Omaha City Planning Department, will remain in North Omaha for the discussion of this project. Located at northwest of 31st Avenue and Patrick Avenue. It's the parcel right next to the cemetery in red here. This is the 5th phase of the Highlander project that I think most people are pretty familiar with. It involves the construction of a new 41-unit mixed income residential development on the vacant lot. There will be 41 units arranged in 7 3-story walk-up residential buildings. This is, as I mentioned, the 5th phase of the project, and the developer is Brinshore Development. It's managed by Todd Lieberman. Total project investment in this area, in this project, is $18 million. The TIF support for the project is $501,775. Again, this project has been reviewed and approved by the TIF committee. It is an appropriate land use for the area, complies with the goals of the city's master plan. Really, it's just kind of an expansion of what we've seen at Highlander so far. Very good developments, positive developments for North Omaha. We ask for your approval.
Thank you, Don. Any other proponents wishing to speak?
Hi, Bill Lukash, Brinshore Development, 903 South 184th Avenue Circle, excuse me. Here to answer any questions you might have about the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, close public hearing. Additional comments, questions? Eric, did you want to add anything?
Recommend approval.
Do we have a motion? We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Morris? Pate? Sotolongo? Rosacker?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 5-0.
Okay. We'll wait until a second till Sydney comes back. All right, Sydney has rejoined the meeting. Agenda item number 13. Case C3-23-150, applicant Planning Department on behalf of the City of Omaha request approval of the Blue Stem Prairie Phases 1 and 2 TIF redevelopment project plan. Location north of Forest Lawn Avenue and Vernon Avenue. You're up again, Don.
Yes, once again, Don Seaton, Omaha City Planning Department, and once again, we have a project in North Omaha. Project located near the Forest Lawn Cemetery. It is a two-phase project. There's kind of a dividing line in this vicinity map that shows the two phases. The project site is a large area of undeveloped land that's formerly known as the Scatterjoy Acres. It's adjacent to Habitat for Humanity's Bluestone 1 TIF project, where presently 85 homes are being developed. The two phases of this project involve 112 additional new single-family homes that will be built in two phases. The project site is within an extremely blighted area. It qualifies for a 20-year TIF term. The developer is HFHO Real Estate Holdings, which is basically a subsidiary of Habitat for Humanity. Amanda Brewer, CEO. Total project investment for both phases is approximately $49.3 million. The TIF support for the project in phase 1 is $3,971,458, and for phase 2, an additional $3,036,997. Again, this project meets the criteria of the city's TIF program. It's been approved by the city TIF committee. It's an appropriate land use for the area, complies with our city master plan, and again, we ask for your approval. A couple more exhibits showing the two phases and the lot layout, and then some example building elevations. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Any other proponents?
Good afternoon. I'm Al Shimmick, 5006 North 192nd Avenue in Elkhorn. I'm Finance Director for Habitat for Humanity and would be available for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Al. Any other proponents?
I'm Steve Brunken, the Executive Director and General Manager of Forest Lawn Cemetery. I'm not here for or against, but I just have some concerns that we feel should be addressed. The area, I don't have the map, but immediately adjacent to our undeveloped land has been known to become a playfield or a playground for ATVs, motorcycles. There's been hunting in there. We have evidence of that. The land is not safe for ATVs or cycles. There's ravines in there, and we have concerns about liability if the kids would get back in there and do things that kids do. As far as the project, neither here nor against, but we're just concerned about safety for the residents that will be moving into the area. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, close public hearing. Eric, did you want to address Steve's concerns, or?
Well,
I don't know how.
I don't know where the ATV activity is taking place. You know, obviously, if they're, you know, trespassing or causing problems, you know, we'd encourage to reach out to the authorities. Obviously, what Habitat is doing in this area is great, both from the you know, the southwestern portion in the purple color, which has already been platted and gone through that entitlement process, as well as this second phase. You know, that plat was just laid over on the consent agenda, but just for a few items that'll get worked out, and that'll be before us soon. You know, this is a very challenging area just based on the history of the site and you know, the difficult terrain. There's a lot of unimproved streets. So I think, you know, developing this area for housing, which includes a component of affordable housing, is just a great benefit by and large. And I did just want to make the comment, You know, you had 3 TIF cases here today, and sometimes TIF gets a bad rap, but every single one of those cases had a component of affordable housing in it. So, you know, you don't always see that with all the TIF cases, but I think it's great and wanted to point that out. So staff recommends approval.
Okay, any additional comments, questions? Do we have a motion? We have a motion and a second. Please record the vote, Kathy.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Franklin? Yes. Morris? Yes. Pate? Yes. Sotolongo?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Agenda item number 16, case C10-23-133, C12-23-134, applicant Drew Lyer. What?
Sorry, go ahead. No. Keep going.
Okay.
I said it was laid over. It's on the next case.
Which case are you talking about?
Keep
We're on
reading.
case 16.
Yes.
Okay. Request preliminary plat approval of Blue Stem Prairie Second Edition, a subdivision inside city limits along with approval of a rezoning from DR to DR and R5. Location 4966 Newport Ave.
I guess I should just make mention, we should have called these together. When I just made reference to the layover, I mixed it up thinking it was on consent. So that is this case. My apologies. We should have called it up with the TIF case there just now. But I don't know if the applicant is here to speak. Otherwise, I can.
Well, I'll go through.
Okay.
Proponents. Is the applicant here for agenda item number 16? Okay.
I don't know, Al, if you just want to say you're available for questions, and I can thank you.
Same thing.
Okay, thanks.
I'm available for questions. Although the gentleman, Ed Thiel, who is more familiar with the layout and land, is, I think, unfortunately just left, thought that the agenda item.
We got Ed here.
Oh, there is Ed.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, Ed.
I'm sorry, I was talking to Steve Brunken from Forest Lawn. Ed Thiel, Habitat for Humanity. You know what the question is?
Address, please.
1701 North 24th Street.
Any questions
Is
for
there,
Ed?
was there a question?
I don't think so.
Okay. Let me just say this, since I'm here, that I did talk with the representative from Forest Lawn. We have the same problem. And it's been a problem in phase 1. It's still a problem in phase 2. As we move into development and clear that site, we hope it will reduce, but we're not even sure where they're coming from. But it's, as we build houses, it will definitely stop. So as far as the ATV kind of thing.
When Steve brought up hunting, what type of hunting's going on in this area? Do you know?
No idea.
Okay.
But picture the site. I don't know if we had an aerial view, but it's almost completely overgrown, and everything to the east, which, by the way, we're working our way to the east. We'll be here someday in the future for that. Completely overgrown with trees. And just yesterday, I was at that site, and it's full of turkeys. I can tell you that for sure. I know there's deer tracks all over. I know there's fox all over. So who knows? Who knows?
Okay. Yep. All right. Thank you. Any other proponents wishing to speak? Seeing none, any opponents? Seeing none, close public hearing. Eric, did you want to add?
Yeah, so once again, sorry for the mix-up there. That was my fault. We should have called those up together. Yeah, there's just a few items to work out on some of the nuances and challenges, some of that related to Newport Avenue and vacation of certain rights-of-way. But we've been working with the development team and should be able to get those fixed and turned around very quickly. So staff recommends layover.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to lay over. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Morris?
Yes.
Pate? Yes. Sotolongo?
Yes.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Franklin? Yes. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Okay, if I'm correct, we're at agenda item number 20. Case C12-23-138. Applicant Dan Dozal, request preliminary plat approval of Civic Corner, a subdivision inside city limits. Property is located within an ACI 1 area of Civic Importance Overlay District. Location 1804 Capitol Ave. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Dan Dolezal, R. Griffin Associates, 3552 Farnham Street. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time today. There, I think that'll work. Put north up. Been doing this for more than a week. We've been involved with some transformational projects. This is one of them. It's the former Civic Auditorium site. We're here for redevelopment on today. It's one of the initial first primary steps to move forward with that project. It consists of an empty lot right now where the Civic Auditorium sat. We're going to retain the parking garage, extend Davenport for a block, create 18th Street, and kind of recreate the grid that was there years ago. White Lotus is the developer. We're looking at a mixed use of affordable market housing, commercial office space, connecting all that with the parking garage. The idea is they're looking hard at creating the intersection, kind of creating a venue of opportunity for art fairs or Friday night concerts, that type of thing. So multi-use, they're working very hard. They've engaged a couple architects already for diversity in the architecture. Some samples that you saw in the previous submittal. These are just images, concepts right now, but just to give you an idea of the flavor and tone of what they're trying to do, I would like to do, and working forward to it. So you would think a clear site has no obstacles, but this does. There's a significant grade change from north to south and east to west. Everything that drains to the southeast, we're working through those grade issues as we go through the architecture and trying to conceptualize what we can do and what works cohesively using the different elements that we're talking about. This is kind of an aerial view. It gives you the bird's eye view of what they're thinking right now. So I'm here for questions. We've talked to the staff. Dave, I appreciate planning department again. They're always so great to work with. We worked with planning and public works on this to reach this point. There's a couple of new requirements now with recent passage of the NDOT on the 5 foot back of curb clear space they're requiring now, so that we have a little bit of plan change, nothing major. It's more right away, a couple feet on each side to create the tree walls that we need. Talked to Jed extensively about the urban design, so the issues that we saw, the recommendations that we saw, we didn't see any, we weren't alarmed by any of them, and we're aware of those comments were coming, so. It's a concept. I won't commit to that, but they'd certainly like to do something. This is, given the location off the interstate like this, the access to this site is incredibly incredible as far as driving by and seeing it or getting to and from on that. So those are all opportunities that they're exploring very hard. So.
It's exciting to see. It's exciting to see some, progress on that because it's such an eyesore right now.
Yeah.
And I really like the concepts. If it comes anywhere close to that, that'll be a home run.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
Any other proponents?
Jay Klein, 2036 North 48th Avenue, here to represent the developer, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jay. Any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, to close the public hearing. Additional comments, questions from the board? Eric.
Yeah, so obviously Dan touched on it. There's been a lot of coordination and continued will be for a lot of the streetscaping, on-street parking, nodes, landscaping, all of those finer details. So we look forward to continue to work with the development team, and an exciting project for an overdue site, I guess I would say. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat, subject to the 17 conditions in the report.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Approval of preliminary plat, subject to the 17 conditions outlined in the recommendation. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Pate?
Yes.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Franklin? Yes. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
For agenda item number 22, you bet, guys. For agenda item number 22, I may have a possible conflict of interest, so I'm going to recuse myself, and I will turn the meeting over to Dave Rosacker.
Let the record show that the chairman has left the chambers. Okay, this is agenda item number 22, case number C12-23-144, applicants Lakeside Farms LLC, request Preliminary plat approval of Lakeside Farms, a cluster subdivision outside city limits with a waiver of sections 53.82G, pavement width, 53.99 sidewalks, 53.82B, cul-de-sac length, 53.93 street servicing, 53.910 streetscape standards to waive installation of streetlights, 53.8 stopping site distance, and 53.84D lot frontage. Location northwest of 72nd Street and Bennington Road. May we hear from the applicant?
Good afternoon, Planning Board members. Jim Bouger, 10250 Regency Circle, here on behalf of the applicant Lakeside Farms LLC. I have with me today Jeff Hofer, who's one of the owners of the development team. I also have Doug Kellner from Thompson, Dreesen, and Dorner, our civil engineers on the project, and we're happy to answer any technical questions you might have about the project. Just a brief description of what we have going on here. We have a very large development parcel here, about 300, in excess of 300 acres. The scale is hard to vision on the map here, but generally located to the north of Bennington Road, extending to the west from 72nd Street and going all the way over to 84th Street almost. So pretty large site that we're dealing with here. We've been working with various representatives of the city, the planning department, Public Works, and other folks to come to an agreement on how best to proceed with the vision of the developer on this project. And it's taken a lot of time for us to get here, and we have worked through a lot of issues, and we do appreciate the city's help and assistance and input in getting us here today. And I think we've reached a point of that everybody is okay to move forward with this, and we're looking forward to it. And I know it's a legacy project for the Hofer family, and they're looking forward to advancing this and getting a few homeowners out there that can really enjoy the area. It's a beautiful, beautiful area, beautiful lake, beautiful piece of property, topography. So we're here to answer any questions you might have, and anyway.
Thank you, Jim.
Just curious, is the lake only accessible to the lots and homes that front the lake?
Yes, it's a private lake, and was constructed privately, and it's a privately owned dam and project. Yes, yeah.
Thank you, Jim. Any other proponents, excuse me? Seeing none, any opponents which wish to speak? Go on down. Give your name and address.
Good afternoon, Pat Ackerman, owner of the North Omaha Airport, 11901 North 72nd Street. A couple things I just wanted to add. I'm not necessarily against the project. I just wanted to highlight a couple things about this piece of property. And so let me pull this up. One is, in the analysis of the report, there was no mention of AV zoning for this property. This property is per the AV zoning in some areas of that, in the transitional zones. And you'll see that I highlighted the deal there. There you go. In the red section, there's the property. The airport is just to the east of there, and those lines are transitional zones. And actually, the entire airspace does cover the lake, and so I did want to make sure that was mentioned as part of the development of this, and that the city did review that to make sure it was in compliance with AB zoning as part of the approval recommendation. Secondly, go out here. Sorry. Secondly, I wanted to make sure that we also know and are aware that the traffic pattern for the airport is over top of these lots. So as an airplane takes off to the north, comes around, it lands to, or takes off to the north, comes around, and lands to the north, the traffic pattern of the airport will fly over these homes in these lots. So I do want to make sure that's part of the record. The airports will be flying over these homes as part of the standard traffic pattern.
Pat, can you keep that? Yep. Sorry, that was loud. Can you keep that up? There's a lot going on here. What are we looking at?
Yeah,
what
sure.
is this visually representing?
So the airport here,
Okay, yep.
There's the airport, and the standard pattern for an aircraft is a left crosswind to a downwind, which will go over top of the lakes right there, and the actual lots are right there, and it comes back in on a downwind and final to land at the airport.
What
So
is
this-
the elevation you're showing generally in the vicinity of the subject site? So
Sure.
kind of on the left part of the screen there.
So over this property, the normal traffic pattern is 1,000 feet above the elevation of the airport. And so obviously Lonigan Lake is lower than the airport, so you're probably looking at 12 to 1,500 foot above the houses. Again, not a concern of mine, it's just more of a, I want to make sure that people are aware that airplanes will be flying over these homes.
How many flights per day do you have currently?
Right now, we're 4 to 5,
Yep.
though many of you are aware we are working on projects around there to increase traffic into that site, and so there will potentially be a lot more in the future.
Okay, thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Any other opponents? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Eric?
Yeah, so, Jim touched on this some. This has obviously been it's been a lengthy process in meeting with the development team and city staff on a number of issues. So we appreciate the coordination, and I think there's, been compromise on both sides. So, this development is proposing to utilize a tool that doesn't come before the board or the city very often. That's the ag cluster. So this property, the entirety of the property is within the future development zone, meaning there is not sanitary sewer service that is available to this site, but at some point in the future, when those sewer extensions do get extended, this site would be. So there are limitations to what the city can support. The ag cluster is one of those tools that does allow some level of construction of homes, and development for a site. And so with the 17 home sites, utilizing the ag cluster, there's a large area. It's the two outlots, basically, outlot A and then outlot H, which make up over 150 acres. Those are being preserved for potential future developable area if the landowner chooses to develop those or someone else in the future. So that's basically the eastern half of the property. I know we discussed these, discussed this concept at length in the pre-meeting, so I won't get into all of the details. But the home sites, the zoning code requires them to be within 1 to 2 acres. Now, because the developer is not maximizing the total potential number of lots that they could do with the ag cluster, the city has agreed to be acceptable to a waiver to the Zoning Board of Appeals to increase the lot size for a number of these home sites in exchange for, certain commitment of the future developable area to be built at a certain density. So that'll be worked out in part of the subdivision agreement. There's also a number of waivers from Chapter 53 that are being requested, most of those which are being supported. So there's one or two that I did want to point out, and we talked about those in the pre-meeting, but the request for complete waiver of sidewalks and street lighting, that is not something that the city typically supports just because we get concerned about that safety level if you have people walking in the street and there's no lights. And so usually we support waivers of sidewalks with a reduced level of streetlights. The applicant has proposed this exhibit that is shown that does have a proposed trail, which is not in your packet. We did receive this more recently, and the city is currently reviewing this. We believe it'll probably be an acceptable component regarding the complete waiver of streetlights and sidewalks, with the one exception, and that's the stopping site distance, which is in the bottom of page 2 in your report. Public Works could speak to that further, but that has to deal with the sag curves and headlights and the change in orientation. So we are not requesting approval of that waiver at this time, so that's going to be a continued point of conversation, and we'll continue to work with the development team on that component. This site is part of the Lake Cunningham Overlay District, which is an environmental overlay. We haven't utilized many developments in this corridor because most of the area is within the future development zone, but This code was put in place probably about 15 years ago, and it really serves to try to protect Lake Cunningham, and protecting that area from, sediment buildup or contaminants entering the lake. Obviously, this is a private-owned lake. It can discharge into Lake Cunningham, but our understanding is the amount of water is very minimal, if any, that is going from Lonergan Lake into Lake Cunningham. So the report talks about that, and the applicant did submit an impact study that did account for many of those items. Now, there were a few items that need continued conversation, one of those being lots 1 and 4, which are more on the southern portion, a few of those larger lots. There are restricted soil and slope area identified in the Lake Cunningham section of section 55902 in the zoning code. And our comment says these areas must be placed within protected easements. So we're gonna have to continue to work with the applicant. I don't know where the proposed home sites would sit on those lots. Additionally, we have a commentary about potential destruction of any wetlands that might have occurred with past grading activities. So we'll need to continue to work with the applicant in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. There will be the requirement for a floodplain development permit to account for some of the grading work that has been done or any other future activity. Unless you have any specific questions, we obviously have Public Works available. There's a lot of components. Most of the street that's serving the lots are private, will be gated, but there is a public cul-de-sac coming off the highway. So that's a summary. There's a lot. Obviously, it's been changing, over the course of several months. So if you have any questions, let me know.
To the board? Okay. Want to make a recommendation then?
Sure. Staff recommends approval of the waiver to section 53.82G pavement width, approval of the waiver to section 53.93 street surfacing, approval of the waiver to section 53.84D lot frontage, approval of the waiver to section 53.82B cul-de-sac length, approval of the preliminary plat subject to the 25 conditions in the report.
Thank you. Any further comments? If not, have a motion.
Approval of the waiver to section 53.82G pavement width, approval of the waiver to section 53.93 street surfacing, approval of the waiver to section 53.84D lot frontage, approval of the waiver to section 53.82B cul-de-sac length, and approval of the preliminary plat subject to the 25 conditions outlined in the recommendation report.
Second.
Kathy, will you take a vote?
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Franklin?
Yes.
Morris? Yes. Pate?
Yes.
Approved 5-0.
Thank you. Let the record show that Chairman Rosenbaum has returned to the chambers.
Let me get that on. Agenda item number 25, case C10-23-58, C11-23-151. Applicant Green Lake Development, LLC, request rezoning from R7 to TOD2 MUR with repeal of the ACI Area of Civic Importance Overlay District, along with approval of a planned unit redevelopment overlay district. Location 3511 and 3515 Howard Street. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Good afternoon. Don Heine with Thompson, Dreesen, and Dorner, 10836 Old Mill Road, here representing the applicant. We're in full agreement with the layover that was suggested for this. There's still a number of issues that need to be resolved before this does move forward. With that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Don. Any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents?
Hi, David Watsinski, 554 South 35th Avenue. And my concern on this project is, if I'm seeing this correctly, it's an 18-unit complex with only 9 stalls for parking. And it is a very busy area, and this is my neighborhood, and congested streets already. And I just don't think our streets can handle this, and so I'm hoping that maybe there can be a better plan for this. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, David. Any other opponents? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Don, would you like to come up and have an opportunity to talk about parking?
Don Heine. I think at this point, with all the comments that have been made on this, I don't think it's appropriate to really respond to what has been submitted. I think in the future, when we come in with something that is more in line with what the department wants to see, I think that would be the time to address these issues.
Okay. Any additional comments or questions? Eric?
Yeah, so obviously this request is to rezone to a TOD, which has been in place since the orbit line went in a number of years ago, as well as a PUR to allow some modifications to that development. So yes, there are 18 one-bedroom units proposed associated with 9 parking stalls, 6 surface and then 3 on-street. The 6 surface access the alley in the rear. Staff had a number of concerns related to building design and making sure that all of the applicable codes are being met, so that was the reasoning for the layover. I don't know if you have any specific questions or comments or concerns at this time, but I don't plan on getting into any of those items unless you want to specifically discuss those.
I don't have any questions if we're going to move forward with the layover. Not at this time.
I guess, hearing the neighbor concern about the number of stalls and the number of units, the planning board, we've talked about this with other sites, and, TOD does reduce the amount of parking that is required on a site. This development with the PUR does take that a little bit further based on the proximity to both the orbit line as well as the future modern streetcar that will be going in. So, I know we've had conversations on other sites. I don't know if now is the appropriate time or for when this comes back. I don't know if it'll be redesigned in a different manner or if there will be any major changes. So staff is recommending layover. I'll put that out there, and if you want, we can have other discussion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Franklin? Yes. Morris?
The only thing that I was going to ask, Eric, is this is laid over. I highly doubt they're going to be ready to come back in a month, but if they do, this gentleman's not going to be notified in 30 days, correct?
That is correct. If this is on the July agenda, we will not send a new notification, but you can definitely reach out to our office here in a couple of weeks and we can tell you whether it's on the agenda. I'd be a little surprised.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just want to make sure you
been
understood that. So, yes.
Okay. Actually, Mike just indicated there was a small typo on the previous notice, so we will notify even if it is on next month. Thanks, Mike, for pointing that error out, but a little bit of clarification, that's unusual. So we will re-notify whenever this is back on the agenda.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry. Pate? Sotolongo?
Yes.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Sydney, are you going
Nice
to?
to see you face to face.
Are you going to recuse yourself? Okay, let the record show that Sydney Franklin is recusing herself on agenda item number 28, and she's leaving the chambers. Okay, agenda item number 28 was on for approval. It was taken off. It's case C10-23-136, C10-23-137, C7-23-145, C7-23-153, C11-23-156. Applicant Brian Hanson. Request rezoning from GC to CC with approval of the ACI 1 Area of Civic Importance Overlay District, along with the approval of a conditional use permit to allow multiple family residential in the CC district, approval of a conditional use permit to allow surface parking in the CC district, and approval of a Plan Unit Redevelopment Overlay District. Location, 3005, 3006 Emmett Street, or 3005 and 3006 Emmett Street. Is the applicant here?
Well,
Got the whole.
yeah, we have several people. Brian Hansen is not here. Hi, my name is Bill Lukash. I'm with Brinshore Development, 903 South 184th Avenue Circle. Just to introduce you to the project, Kennedy Square West. Can I borrow that picture, please? That's all right. Yeah, thanks. Not the best quality, but Kennedy Square West is a 39-unit mixed income multifamily building. It is the last phase to use choice neighborhood funds from the city and OHA's 2019 Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant. It's the last phase of the North 30th Street Transformation Plan to use those funds. With those funds, roughly a third of the units of this building will be reserved for former residents of Spencer Homes. A third of them will be affordable housing units, or made available to be affordable level, I should say. And then roughly a third will be unrestricted or market rate units. The parking lot across the street to the north will be resurfaced. Landscaping will be included in that to make it more attractive, but it will remain a parking lot. The property will be owned by a partnership of the Omaha Housing Authority, Brinshore Development, and 75 North. It will be managed by the Selden Company, along with very similar to the other projects at the Highlander development. I'm here to answer any questions, and I'll turn it over to Terry now.
My name is Terry Morrison with Earhart Griffin & Associates, 3552 Farnham Street. I'm the civil engineer on the project and provided the application for the rezoning. I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Terry.
Good afternoon, Joni Poor, Omaha Housing Authority, 1823 Harney Street. Just here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Joni. Any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents?
My name is Jeremiah Saffold, address 3035 Emmett Street. I have some concerns about a 39-unit dwelling going there along 30th Street in Emmett, between Emmett and Bedford. First off, the street congestion. So currently, I looked at the plans. I don't know if the picture's up there or not, but looking at the plans here, this is Emmett Street along here. This currently is a residential street. We live, there's residence houses along there. We live, let's see, up there. So along 30th Street right now, it got a redevelopment a while ago down to 3 lanes into where you have the left, north and south traffic, and then you have the middle lane for turn traffic. Turning out onto this, it's quite even right now with the traffic along 30th Street. A left turn from Emmett Street onto 30th Street is not, it's quite difficult, and adding 39 more units with what they're saying 76 proposed parking spaces are down to, I believe, 63 was what they said with the bus stop and the other thing that's there. It's going to add quite a bit of traffic there, which is really going to force people to turn west and head west on Emmett Street, where we have, there's young children, there's a daycare at the end of the street also as well. So it's providing a safety concern for us as residents of the neighborhood. And then also increase in foot traffic. There's going to be an increase in foot traffic if we're adding 39 units. I've seen that. It said there's going to be a bunch of 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms, and I think a few 3-bedrooms. So you're looking at probably at least 80 new residents on the street, give or take a few. So you're looking at 80 new residents, and also the street. Also, right now it's a thin street, but also there for the parking spaces, and they also talked about parking along the street as well, which is going to congest the street even further. I guess I had some questions for even the developers, but I suppose I can speak to them since they're in the room. I'll read something here I got from the Omaha Master Plan, the housing element, in a part that says creation and preservation of healthy neighborhoods, owner-occupied housing. It says homeowners are more strongly anchored to a neighborhood through ownership. And then another quote I got from there, from that same segment there, says, once a single-family dwelling is lost to investment housing market, it is unlikely to become an owner-occupied dwelling again. And I think what this is saying in the Omaha Master Plan is that they want to increase and they want to advocate for home ownership. And it is you consider it an opinion or whatever, that as these go in more and more, so they've got the Highlander down the street, they've got this here, they've got the Kennedy Square East, I believe that they're calling it over there where Spencer Homes was, and then this going in as well. I don't believe that this is going to increase or advocate or make individuals want to own a home around there. And as we know, through this zip code 68111, and that area is a highly what's the word I'm looking for here? Investors own a lot of homes around there, and so there's a lot of renting, and that is not the direction in which we would like our neighborhood to go, and we would like to increase home ownership. I was told that this would add value to my property, When I purchased the home in 2017, the property value was at $45,700, and today, the letter I got from the city last week said that my property is valued at $100,400 in 2023, and that is a 121% increase in just 4 years. So I would ask, even, what is the value in which this would add to my property, since I'm already up 121%? I will conclude that there. You can leave that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Any other opponents?
My name is Courtney Saffold, 3035 Emmett Street. My biggest concern, specifically safety in, trying to find, okay. Okay, so if you look here, I just want to give like a visual of what he said. So if these are the units, so this is our home, this is a church, this is an alleyway that's not used. It's overgrown, and it doesn't obviously go all the way through to the street, so it's not used. This is a place of worship, a church right here, and our actual driveway to our home is in this alleyway. So when it comes to parking, none of these homes have driveways. So all of these homes, they already do street parking. So then if we're saying maybe adding to that. Secondly, when it comes to safety, again, this is a daycare right here. So then since they can't take a left very easily coming around. And also when there is traffic here at J.A. Creighton and Bedford, we commonly see people go through the church parking lot like this, to go through this way or to go from J.A. Creighton to Bedford. So this is, like I said, our driveway, our backyard, already where children play and where there's a place of worship. So increasing that, the very likely possibility of increasing traffic if this is just a four-way stop. So if there's like a few cars backed here, people easily just, okay, I'll just go through the parking lot, try to be easy. So that would increase that anymore. Also foot traffic concern of, it's an easy walk back here through the parking lot. And through this like alleyway, like I said, it's an overgrown alleyway. It's not actually used because this current community center that is there blocks it off for vehicles. The biggest thing for me isn't this changing. This is a community center that hasn't been used the entire time we've lived here. Like you can walk by, there's mold, all that. The biggest thing is that it's 39 units of rented houses. Rented homes. We would love to see, 4 townhomes that people can purchase and have ownership on our street. It would change it from, maybe 10 residents to obviously at least 39 plus, because we know most of these won't just be a single person living there. So it would just be really changing the entire feel of one of the nice quiet streets in North Omaha. It would completely change that. That's all I have.
Courtney, could you put that back up again real quick? I was writing where was the preschool at?
There's a preschool right here, but I was talking, there's an in-home daycare right here.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Right. So, and they have, kids and all that, that is right there. Yeah. And then there's kids on our street. Like I said, it's a family street. Just houses. Everyone. I think the in-home daycare might be like someone rents it, but other than that, everyone on our home is homeowners. We plan on staying there, and we've been there. I mean, we've been there for 5 years, and we're the newest people there. It's just not. It's not a street that we want 39 units. I mean, so I'm thinking maybe 100 plus people on. It's a very quiet street right now, and we'd like to keep it that way.
Okay, thank you, Courtney. Any other opponents?
Hello, I'm Clark Williams, representing the family at 3031 Emmett. For one, I did grow up there. It's a lot of tradition there. And one of my biggest proponents of this situation is, but of course, safety and housing development that doesn't represent what the master plan is saying as far as building up the community and home ownership. But one of my biggest safety issues is the fact that if we put 39 units right here on Emmett Street, I don't know if anybody did a traffic study, but Bristol Street and Bedford Street are very close corners that's right there. And if they build 39 units right there, the traffic congestion would just get totally a lot worse. If we do a study on how many car accidents and how many things that happens right here at these lights, we see car accidents there all of the time. And to add, like you said, almost 80 people or how many ever people that you would add there with 39 units, it would just make that Bristol Street and Bedford Street just so much more dangerous. And then they're right to Emmett Street right here. It just makes it that little corner right here is 3 corners that it would just make it very dangerous for the families and for the people that are building there. And not only that, it just doesn't represent for the people that's in the community as home ownership, because housing authority and the land developers are the only people that's really going to benefit from this being there. And the people that's in the community habitat, they did build a lot of houses up there and on maybe 32nd and Emmett, further up between 32nd, 33rd, from the Malcolm X Center on down. They built a lot of housing developments there and quite a few blocks on the other side. I think it goes back as far as to Pinckney and to Pratt. And when they were building that, everybody in the community was looking forward to, it being more houses there and being more things there that would, benefit the community. And with 39 units there, it wouldn't benefit anybody that's in that community. And not only will it be taking my family away from there that's been there for over 50 years and so much tradition there, it just wouldn't bring any value besides to housing authority and to the land developers there. So that'll be about it. And safety concern on 3 corners right there in that immediate place. And, I don't know if anybody did a traffic study, but it is a very dangerous corner already. So you might want to do a traffic study to find out how many accidents are there among those 3 streets. And if it's 39 units put there, it'll make it totally that much more dangerous. So that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, any questions or anything?
Nope. Any other opponents?
Cheryl Weston, 1299 Farnham Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68102. Definitely a proponent against this for several of the reasons that people have come forth and already said. You look at that. Would you want this in your neighborhood? No, you wouldn't. Not one of you up there would. You keep saying, people, you tell North Omaha about being home ownership, all the good things that's coming to North Omaha. Is this more good things coming to North Omaha? You promote it, just as the young man said, in the master plan. We have the city planning director right up there. The master plan says home ownership, particularly for North Omaha. This is not giving home ownership to North Omaha. This is more, all this is doing is redefining the projects. You had those on North 30th. You have new ones that's going to the south of this area. And now you want to put 39 units in a 3-story building? That is wrong. What are you doing to continue to keep North Omaha down and be nothing but rental and property for real estate developers, which some of you probably have some contact with? But to have it, the traffic, as he spoke before, it is terrible on that corner. There are accidents all the time. People run that lights all the time. You're going to have 39 units, and now that 39 units, you know that there's going to be children. You're putting them on a busy street. You have it now, as he said, it's already cut down to one lane going in each direction with the center lane, and people miss it all the time, or they try to take and go through it very quickly. It also says here in the plan that it's going to be developed to have market rate standards, which will have a unique contemporary look. We all know that this is not going to happen here in North Omaha. We know that because we live there. I've lived there almost all of my life, and I intend to stay there. We're asking you, we're coming forward. You keep wanting to say and encourage. Every other area is encouraged home ownership, the American dream. Then why don't they take and put some townhomes on this, or some single family units, and then what they can do is people can move into them and rent them for approximately 3 to 5 years, and then be able to have an escrow account to purchase those homes. When you have home ownership, the neighborhood becomes a neighborhood. It's not a hood. There are some of us in North Omaha. We live in a neighborhood, just like you do. I bet not one of you go out and talk about your hood here. That's what we're trying to change, is to make this a neighborhood. We're trying to get young couples like this to continue to purchase homes in that area. And instead, you want to approve, and you will today. We've come here. We've shown that we care. Many more wanted to, but because of the timing, they couldn't come down. They have to work because they're trying to take and hold on. Sir, could you at least give me a few of your attention?
Excuse me, I'm taking notes, please.
Didn't appear to be. That's what, like I said, I know this is futile, but we still had to take and try.
Cheryl, I'll vouch for, he's been taking notes the whole time you've been talking, the whole time everybody's been talking.
It didn't make a person standing up here appear to feel that way.
Okay.
So if you say so, then we'll have to take that. But we just wanted to come down here and try to say, don't do this. There's enough of these properties that look like this already. Put some homes in there. You know why? We don't even have a grocery store in our area. They're planning on building one, but that's down on North 16th, now downtown. And they keep telling us, you don't have the rooftops. We would have rooftops because if we had people who wanted to move into our area. I don't want to belinger the situation so that you can get to the vote, but think about it. Sometimes it just takes one to stand up. This is not the project for there. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Any other opponents?
Hello, my name is Gwen Easter. I'm with the Commission on African...
What was your name again?
Gwen Easter.
Gwen? All right.
And I'm with the Commission on African American Affairs. I'm a commissioner. And...
Do you have an address, please?
Yes, and I also live at 2895 Benny Street, just a couple blocks down from them. And I'm here to be in agreement with them. You know, families should not be asked to move out, lose their properties so these developments can come into our community. And as they did already touch on safety, it's a huge problem. 30th Street, they got the bike lanes that should have never been there in the first place, barely used. There are families who have lost their homes already being pushed out of North Omaha. Lost their businesses. So it's not no surprise to me if they're asking these people to lose their property. The taxes are going up. 75 North and these other housing companies, they have not benefited North Omaha residents. Many residents have been pushed out of our community and having to go live other places. And let's talk about, they always talking about affordable housing. Most of these places are not affordable to somebody making $9, $10 an hour, you know, without a voucher. Also, trying to come up with double rent and deposit in order to move into these places. 211, mine also nonprofit organization who works with housing and get calls every day from people needing help with rent, utilities, needing to find a home because people are being pushed out of their homes by these people, these large companies coming in, buying up the properties right underneath these residents, you know, feet, and then asking them to move with, oh, you got 30 days to get out because some big development or corporation is coming in to buy their home, their properties, leaving these people homeless. It's no different. These developments are not the best thing for us in our community. Like I said, home ownership, you know, I mean, what's next? They're gonna ask where we're located, you know, to take our homes and our businesses. My business and my home has suffered because of 75 North and Housing Authority, all these places, because, you know, they took out our residents, so it's hard to even have, you know, get business over there for the children because they got their huge daycare center, right? You know, all of them offering free daycare. So these organizations are not benefiting North Omaha residents. They are hurting us. They are hurting us, and this will hurt these families too. You know, Judah Kingdom Center, that's the church that the young man referenced. Are they going to be asked to move? Because so these developers can do what they want to do for Housing Authority or 75 North to do what they want to do? We can talk about all day long that this is a benefit. Y'all can go up there and talk to those residents that got in, yeah, but how about talking to hundreds of people who didn't get into those places, who are still looking for homes? It's not a benefit. It's going to benefit them, you know, the people who's making the money off of it. And I'm asking you all to not consider allowing this to happen. Like I said, we already been suffering over there. Hundreds of families gone. Hundreds of daycares gone. And it's because of all these different entities that are in partnership. Don't say that you all care about North Omaha when we continue to struggle, when we continue to have to fight these big organizations that in the end seem like to win all the time, but we still gonna come, we still gonna stand up. And as a commissioner, that's just part of our duty, is to anything that affects Black African American people in the areas of housing, education, economic development, dental, welfare. We are tasked to come and speak on these types of matters. So I'm here and I'm standing with them on these matters, and I'm asking you guys not to consider everything, how this would affect these families. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Any other opponents? Sir, you already came up and spoke.
Yeah, I just have one more comment.
If you can keep it. All right.
Yep, no,
just hold on just a second.
It's as fast as it's going to be.
If you can take a seat for just a second, I'll call you back up. Any other opponents? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Jeremiah, would you come up? And if you can keep it real short.
It's just
all right.
20 seconds.
Because the reason is we don't want to always have people coming back.
No. I'm just requesting a layover so that the Emmett Street residents can meet with the development team. Okay. That's simply what I'm asking.
Thank you, Jeremiah. All right, I closed the public hearing. Do you guys, Bill, your team, anybody want to come up and?
Hi, again, Joni Poor, Omaha Housing Authority, 1823 Harney Street. I can answer any questions that you might specifically have. Just to clarify some of the information, Currently, where this property is being proposed to be built, we would not be taking out any single-family homes. The Omaha Housing Authority owns the property. It's a former office building and a former community center and daycare, as well as a parking area that we owned. So there's not any single-family homes that are coming out of this space. Part of our obligation in our grant agreement in partnership with the City of Omaha and the Omaha Housing Authority and Bryn Shore Development, when we were awarded $25 million originally and then another $5 million just recently from Housing and Urban Development for the Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant, was that we would do one-for-one replacement housing in a mixed income structure for the residents of Spencer Homes when we agreed that that is obsolete and should be torn down. So a portion of those replacement units are slated for and designed to be in this development. Again, it's mixed income, so approximately a third would have a deep skew or a deep subsidy, which would be through a voucher that OHA would provide. About a third of the units would be like workforce housing, subsidized through a low-income housing tax credit, and then about a third of the units would be market rate units. There was a comment, I believe, about the finishes and the quality of all of the units. If you look at some of the properties that have already been completed, you can see that all of the units are completed to a high standard that we're required to follow, both for low-income housing tax credits and for HUD. Units are indistinguishable, so even if there's a voucher on the unit or it's a market rate unit, you don't know what type of unit that has, or who quote-unquote lives in that unit. So if that helps to kind of explain where this project came from, and that it was back in 2019 when we applied for the Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant. Along with the City of Omaha, this project or this parcel of these parcels were always intended to be redeveloped for rental housing for this purpose. Any questions for me?
Yeah, I think a concern that, and I totally understand this, being somebody that advocates a lot for South Omaha communities as well. I mean, rental properties are necessary. Affordability is necessary. Some people cannot qualify to purchase a home, and so I understand that. But I do think they bring up a good point about home ownership, and I'm curious if Bryn Shore or any other projects that you're aware of either have been completed or slated for the future do address home ownership and
Sure.
seek to increase that as well. Maybe a lease to own
Sure.
option like they did mention.
So super unfortunately, the one person who's best suited to answer that question is the one person who had to leave the room, which is Sydney Franklin, who leads 75 North. 75 North, I'm ill prepared to tell you the great work that they're doing across the board, but I do know that throughout the 30th Street corridor, they are completing home ownership programs, and they are greatly positioned to do so as a nonprofit organization, and being able to braid different funding sources together to do that. I don't know the exact number of all of those units. Do you? Kelly knows.
Kelly Johnston Dorsey, Omaha Planning Department. So there are 4 homes on Parker Street that are recently completed. There are 3 rehabs underway on North 30th Street. They just broke ground on 6 on Parker Street and 6 additional on Corby Street. There, I believe, was only 2 homes that had to be demolished because of that had been vacant for years. Other than that, they've been developed on undeveloped ground. And those are all for sale. A lot of them are restricted to those earning 80% AMI or less. The ones that are under construction now are between 80 and 20% AMI or less. So those are income restricted for homeowners to move into. And that's just the start. There's land then between Blondo and Burdette that will also be developed for owner-occupied housing there as well.
Are there any other organizations that you are aware of, like Habitat or anyone else that is providing for sale product for?
In the general area, yes. In the specific, what we call our choice neighborhood area, 75 North is taking the lead. The city does own some other undeveloped property that we've received requests from builders who want to build on those properties, and we're having those discussions right now. So yes, there's owner-occupied construction underway. Right now, it's been affordable, and that workforce housing. There's also an interest in maybe looking at adding some market rate home ownership opportunities in the future as well.
specifically with your question about other organizations in and around the neighborhood. Historically, Jesu Housing, Habitat for Humanity, and Holy Name Housing have also developed housing in and around that area, all for home ownership or various rent-to-own programs, perhaps through the Nebraska Income Finance Authority, those sorts of things.
Okay, thank you, John.
If I could, just real quick. Regarding that Bill Lukash Brinshore development, 903 South 184th Avenue Circle, regarding the housing element of the city's master plan, you know, this project, this really does speak to the Affordable Housing Action Plan that the city of Omaha recently passed. It provides housing in East Omaha where it's critically needed, high-quality housing that's affordable. At a recent lease-up event we had for Overlook Burdette and Wade, we had a line extending out of the building down the street for people looking for housing, high-quality housing. So I think there's a real need. This addresses some of the needs, certainly not anywhere near to all the housing we need. And yes, 75 North, since day one of the Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant, well, not day one, but shortly after, was scheduled to do the affordable housing development piece of the single-family home ownership piece. So that's the plan. That's what they're working for. Brinshore Development, we're on board for the rental housing component. And as I said before, this is the last phase using Choice Neighborhood funds for the North 30th Street Transformation Plan. So thank you very much.
Bill?
Yes.
Just your best educated guess, what percentage do you think of the way, or are we along the way of filling that void and filling that need?
For
ownership and leasing, everything.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know.
5%.
That finished after I left the city, so I really don't know those numbers off the top of my head. Maybe Kelly has a feel for those. I mean, the gap is huge. The gap is huge.
Realize that.
Yeah, and I just don't know the numbers off the top of my head. 39 units certainly is a drop in the bucket to what the need is. So I'm sorry, I just don't know those numbers. Yeah.
Bill, I don't know if you, Joni, or Kelly is best equipped. I think you all could probably answer this question. Looking holistically at, you know, the entire process of Choice Neighborhood implementation. You know, you mentioned the federal dollars, the 25 million, and additional funds here recently coming in. What about other funds, other contributors that have been a part of it? You know, there was some comments about you're the only ones benefiting, or only the residents living in these facilities are benefiting, which I don't think is an accurate assessment.
Well, so the funding sources, to speak to that, we have to blend a lot of funding sources, both city funds such as home, low-income housing tax credit dollars, state affordable housing tax credit dollars, CDBG-DR, which is replacement dollars that from flooding a few years ago. Gosh, what else is in there? TIF. We're going to apply for a TIF application. So there's a lot of different funding sources that have to go into this project to make it come to life and be an asset for the community. So I'm sorry, what was the rest of your question?
Well, just other offshoot development, philanthropy, other partners
there's
that are not
philanthropic
here.
dollars. I mean, there's a lot of dollars that go into these different projects. And again, the people that will live there's going to be market rate units, there's going to be affordable housing units, and there's going to be replacement housing for people that formerly lived in Spencer homes. Yeah.
Any additional comments or questions from the board? Eric.
Yes. So there was discussion about the master plan, the housing element, home ownership. Absolutely, there's a need for that. It's becoming ever more challenging. We sit here every month. We go through cases, hundreds, if not thousands, of rental units. It has become the new starter home. And that's just a fact. We see it every time on the agenda. Here today, we have rental products on 103rd Street in Ida, 204th in Harney, 204th in F, 204th in Honeysuckle, 144th in DuPont, 24th in Lake, 31st in Patrick, 18th in Capitol, 35th in Howard, another one, 204th in F, 30th in Emmett, 16th in Binney. That's a lot of different areas of the city. You know, that is the reality. Obviously, we want to be able to produce more for sale homeownership opportunities. We've talked about it with, it came up, I think, this morning with the Habitat TIF and what they're doing, with their Blue Stem properties. That's 200 single-family lots for sale. The cost of those homes, they're not able to sell those for what it costs to build. So it's continuing to be a challenge. I think it was kind of amazing when Kelly said that this was the last phase, and Bill also said it here in the public hearing. So I think the choice neighborhood implementation has been a great benefit for this part of our city. I'm not going to get into too many of the details. If you have any specific questions, there are many entitlement processes that you are voting on today. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning from GC to CC, approval of the ACI 1 overlay district, approval of the PUR subject to submittal of final plans prior to council, approval of the conditional use permit for multifamily residential and surface parking subject to the 7 conditions.
Additional comments, questions? Do we have a motion?
I move approval of the rezoning from GC to CC, approval of the I-1 area of civic importance overlay district, approval of the PUR planned unit redevelopment overlay district, subject to submitting acceptable final PUR development plans prior to forwarding the request to City Council, and approval of the conditional use permit to allow multiple family residential and surface parking in the CC district, subject to the 7 conditions outlined in the recommendation report.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Sotolongo?
Before I vote, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming down here. I think it's important to have this conversation, hold everybody accountable, all the stakeholders. It's tough in these neighborhoods. Nonprofits hold a lot of money and power sometimes, and I think it is good to hold people accountable because residents sometimes don't feel heard. I just want to say that I understand that when it comes to this project specifically, it doesn't displace anybody, and that therefore I am supportive of it. But if that were not the case, I would be voting no. But today it's yes.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Morris? Yes. Pate? Yes. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 5-0.
Okay. Let the record show that Sydney Franklin has rejoined the meeting. Do we want to take 36 and 37 together? Yep. All right, will do. Agenda item number 36 and agenda item number 37, we'll take those together. Agenda item number 36 is case C14-23-131. Applicant, property owner, request approval of the vacation of a portion of Birch Street right-of-way located between 20th Street and 24th Street. Agenda item number 37, case C14-23-132. Applicant, property owner, request approval of the vacation of a portion of Birch Street right-of-way located between 24th Street and 27th Plaza. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Are these on? Yep. All right.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm getting my materials together. I jumped forward a little faster than I thought. All right. I am Derek Scott from 6028 South 182nd Avenue, representing Creighton University. I'm here to discuss the request to vacate 2 sections of Birch Street, the section between 20th and 24th Street, and the section between 24th and 27th Plaza, which is just east of the 75 bridge. In this request, we would not request to close any north-south road sections, so 20th would remain open and 24th would remain open. This initiative is part of the university's effort to improve the walkability of the campus and improve pedestrian safety and increase green space in the urban core. We would not build buildings over the roadbed. We understand that there are a lot of utilities that we would have to retain easements with the utility companies, and that throughout this process in our planning, we've been talking with Bike Omaha and city planning about making that east-west connection with the bike route. We're working with the same architect firm that did the mall out here for the city as well. We like a lot of those things that came about from that design. Any questions? I have a artist conception if you wanted to see it, if you haven't seen it.
I said, you said that there's not going to be any closure of any north-south.
Correct.
thoroughfare, which I understand. But on North 24th Street, since that's kind of the connecting street between the bird streets that you're trying to connect between 27th and 26th or something like that. What's going to happen with 24th Street there then?
So 24th
Will there be
Street.
free movement?
So, I'm sorry.
So
Would there be what?
a free movement. I mean, you're going to
Yes.
close. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to. That part of 24th Street isn't going to be closed off.
No.
At all.
No,
Right.
not
Is
at
that
all.
the part that roundabout was discussed?
No, that's further to the west.
To the
We can-
west,
we can
okay.
put that out.
So that'll be free, there'll still be a free flow of traffic on 24th Street,
Correct.
right? Okay.
Yeah, and Creighton University made recent improvements and enhancements to 24th Street. As you basically, kind of the main part of the
Right.
campus is where you have a lot of pedestrians crossing. There's been a lot of changes that you've done in recent years in coordination with the city on 24th Street. But yeah, you can continue along from downtown, basically north 24th Street. It'll remain open.
Okay.
Yeah, traffic used to fly through 24th Street, even though it was 20, 25 miles an hour, it was going 45 and 50 through there. And when we did that road diet, it slowed it down. They creep through. We don't see traffic back up. So the roundabout, the road diet, the improvement, the adding the green space, the ornamental lighting, all of that had a significant impact on that traffic speed through there and pedestrian safety. But to your question, no, we would not close 24th Street. We don't have it designed, but thinking through the way it would work, we would still have to maintain that red light because we have some going into the dental school on Bird Street. We would have to keep the throat open there on Bird Street that way. And then what happens on the other side. So that light may still have to remain, but we would have a civil and an architect help us with, landscape architect help us with that.
I would think you'd need that anyway, just because that 24th Street carries a lot of traffic.
It does, and maintaining the safety for left turns off of Burt onto 24th Street, we think we would need that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Derek, are vehicles still going to be able to drive on Bird Street? I'm wondering about rescue and fire.
So that was my hesitation. So vehicles in general, we don't want on there, but we envision on the ends the Creighton shuttle having a remote opener that opens the gates, and they can come down through there to keep the traffic interior to the campus. And then those would be breakaway for any fire and emergency vehicles, ambulances, those kinds of things. So the mall bed would be built wide enough and strong enough to handle those apparatus.
I didn't know if you were going to squeeze it down where you couldn't get vehicles.
No, we can't do that because we have to have access. And if where the ball fields are, we're looking at a mall in there. So we need to be able to have that fire and emergency access to our residence halls, to our dental clinic, and those things. On the west end, we talked with city planning about what we'd have to do is to make a circle, a node, so we would have turnaround for not a ladder truck. A ladder truck would have to go straight through that Burt Street closure, but other apparatus could turn around and change direction. So that's where the Werner Center is and the bridge that we just built. So under that end, we would have to make a turnaround. We wouldn't want it dead ending Burt Street there.
Any other questions for Derek? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Any other proponents?
Hey everybody, Manuel Cook, address 3306 Cass Street, and I waited all the way to the end of planning board and didn't fall asleep. But I honestly don't know if I'm a proponent or opponent to this at this moment. I think it's a great idea to close Birch Street generally, but I'm concerned about closing it to public traffic. I think it's important to maintain that as whether it's through a trail or some sort of connection, multimodal, 10-foot to 12-foot pathway through that space, because it does have a lot of through traffic from the Gifford Park and the neighborhoods to the west, and it is like an ideal route to get downtown to the riverfront, especially considering that those neighborhoods to the west have also been disconnected by the highway. So if it's not open to public traffic 24/7 as a trail or some other thoroughfare would be, then I'll be an opponent. But I think that generally the idea and concept is a good one for the area and for the community. It makes sense for the students, safety-wise, and I think could be like a really great attraction to the area as well. But again, I think it needs to be public to everyone. So those are my thoughts and comments. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, close public hearing. Additional? Sure. He's up there.
Jerry?
Sorry, name and address again, if you would.
Yeah, I would say that
Just name and
Oh,
address again.
sorry. Derek Scott, 6028 South 182nd Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So Cumming Street carries a lot of traffic, right? And when you get high density events like the College World Series, Creighton basketball, whatever it might be, I mean, the traffic is just unbelievable, right? Which is good. So how much of that traffic then during those events does Birch Street currently handle?
Birch Street traffic handles traffic interior to the university. When the Kiewit complex was built and the garage to the east of 16th Street, so on Burt and 16th,
Right.
so that section is closed. And then the section west of 16th Street between 16th and 17th is closed. And you may have seen some plans in the builder's district for that section. So there is no through traffic that takes you east to west past 17th. So
Birch Street.
Yep.
Yeah, Cumming's the only way you can get through there.
Yeah, Cumming and Cass, and that takes you around the university proper, and that's the public transit, and then that's why I said that we would probably keep some shuttle route capability within Birch Street to keep that off of Cumming and Cass.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Any additional comments, questions? Eric?
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of conditions that we have in these two reports. There's Public Works can obviously speak to the amount of utilities and the majority of those comments. If you have any questions or clarification, yes, there is the need. We talked about it briefly, but for the cul-de-sac turnaround to have proper termination of the public right-of-way to the west of 27th Street or 27th Plaza. So we'll need to continue to coordinate with the applicant on that. There's also a comment on 21st Street access point from Cumming in one of the reports. Outside of retaining multiple easements that are listed in the reports, obviously the city is very in agreement with the statement by Manny about having an open bikeway and pedestrian path. So you also have those conditions in here. I don't have much to add unless there's specific questions on any of the specific items in the two reports. Otherwise, we could start with agenda item number 36. Staff recommends approval subject to the 14 conditions in the report.
Do we have a motion? We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Franklin? Yes. Morris?
Yes.
Pate?
Yes.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
So agenda item 37, which is the portion from 24th Street to 27th Plaza, staff recommends approval subject to the 13 conditions in the report.
Do we have a motion?
Motion approved, subject to the 13 conditions staff report. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Franklin. Morris. Pate. Sotolongo.
Yes.
Rosacker.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Okay, do we have a motion for May's pre-meeting minutes and public meeting minutes?
Motion to approve May pre-meeting and public meeting minutes. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Morris. Pate. Sotolongo. Rosacker.
Yes.
Franklin. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Approved 5-0.
Before we adjourn, I'll ask for a motion, but can everybody stay for just a couple minutes? Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Second.
Kathy, we have a motion, a second. Please record the vote.
Pate. Sotolongo.
Yes.
Rosacker. Rosacker. Franklin. Morris. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
I brought in the pre-meeting to